where you would use your credit card. Apparently, you just use your phone and scan your thumbprint and pay for it with your credit card. But anyways, if they couldn't keep naked pictures of celebrities safe, are you really going to trust them in the cloud with all your information? I mean, you talk about Big Brother. This is the stuff they're talking about, man. And I wouldn't trust it. But anyways, apparently Ray Rice is now an hour ago's news because the new iPhone is coming out. Hey, here's something Browns related in the break, and I think it speaks directly towards what we mentioned last segment about Jordan Cameron. I was half joking about it being only in Cleveland would you get Josh Gordon back on a miracle call and then lose Jordan Cameron at the same time. I'm not saying he's lost, but the Browns brought in Kellen Davis for a workout today. That's a veteran tight end there, played with Chicago before, and obviously if they're working out tight ends, then they're clearly worried about what happens with Jordan Cameron. So tomorrow is when we're supposed to get an update on Cameron and Ben Tate, but clearly they're looking at worst case scenarios here and looking to add another tight end to fill the gap. I don't think you bring a guy in for a workout if you're only worried about losing Cameron for maybe a game. Maybe you do. Maybe you feel that Barnidge and Dre aren't enough, especially with such a thin wide receiver core to fill the gap there. I don't know. But Kellen Davis brought in today for a workout. We'll see what that means tomorrow as far as Jordan Cameron's availability, because the family day was when he hurt the shoulder, and it was a separation then, but I think that that diving catch that he got hurt on the other day may have turned it from a slight separation into an actual separated shoulder, and I believe, I could be wrong, but we're talking 6 to 8 weeks would probably be the recovery time on, and that's assuming that it's a non-surgical repair and that it's able to be healed, and even then, he's going to play with pain. Like, I'm just going to tell you now that's those, especially depending on how and exactly what part of the joint, very painful, very hard to deal with, and they can happen frequently again, especially a lot of times when guys get a big one, they'll have off-season surgery where they insert, there's various pieces of mechanical stuff that they can do that basically tightens the socket up and pulls your shoulder together, because otherwise you actually can have that happen over and over and over again. It's like it loosens the socket and makes it easier the second, third time for the shoulder to pop out. So, but that, just letting you guys know what I know, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We're going to talk some Indians here as we get ready to go to the phones. You guys, phones aren't open. You can hit us up, Facebook and Twitter and email, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfix, CLE, all one word. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. I'm going to the phones. My man Jeff Gorman's with us here as the Indians, yesterday, tough one as they dropped the makeup game to the Angels. Angels came in hot and just stayed there as they went to work on the Indians. Bad one for Salazar and the Tribe. The good thing is you just get to move on today because you got no choice, and the Twins coming to town. So let's talk about it. Jeff Gorman writes for Indians101.com. He's with us on Tuesdays talking about it. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, there. Thanks for having me. You know, you're talking about the 24-hour news cycle, and that's pretty much just how it is with the Indians. The best thing we can say about the Angels is, you know, they're gone. They came in, they came out. We only had to play them one time. Much better than three times.
Exactly. They're gone, man. I'm with you there. It didn't go well. It went well for 4 innings or so, and you know, Salazar coming off of that great run where, what was it, 17 straight scoreless innings, and he had the complete game and all of that, coming off the best performance of his career basically, but they got to him in the 5th inning. He was able to deal with that Angels lineup for 4 innings. In the 5th, they hit him 6 times, got a couple of home runs. Indians tried to chip their way back, got it to 6-3 at one point, but that was as close as they were going to come. Another half a dozen put on the board by the Angels in the late half of the game, and it just got away from them. 12-3 the final score, and like you said, best thing you can take out of that is it's over and we move on, and the Indians remain 5 games back, technically 4 of Kansas City with that one that they've got in pocket, so I'm going to call it 4. 4 games back of Kansas City, 3 behind Detroit. Meanwhile, in the wild card, 4.5 games back of Seattle, 5 games back of Oakland, which to me is the amazing part, is Oakland cooled off enough that, and you guys don't underappreciate that now both wild cards are basically tied, because that's 2 spots. That's not at one point with Oakland 10 games ahead of the number 2 wild card, it looked like that spot was locked up and everybody was competing for number 2. But no, now you've got a 4-team race with Oakland, Seattle, Detroit, and Cleveland for 2 spots and not 1. That has really changed the landscape. Oakland cooling down while everybody else kept heating up has changed the wild card race as well.
Well, that is great for us, and really Oakland has nobody to blame but themselves. I still can't believe they traded Sexton as their main power hitter to the Red Sox. I don't know why that got me so mad, and I'm still mad about it because I don't care about the Oakland A's. That was just the dumbest thing, when things are going so well. You know what? It's called trying to outsmart yourself and trying to show everybody, oh, look how smart I am. They're going to make a movie about me. They're going to put Brad Pitt in it. And me, it's power enough alone. If you're in first place, just let it ride. If you just screwed it up, and they might end up being completely out of the playoffs if they're not careful. But again, that's really good news for the Indians. Another chance to get close there. And the other good news for the Indians is that the Royals and the Tigers are beating each other up. Neither of them are going too far out ahead. They're going to be playing this week. They're going to play tomorrow night on ESPN, so both of them are going to stay close to even keep the division in hand. But the important thing for the Indians is they really have to get hot here simply because they're running out of time.
You're dead on about the Oakland thing. You said it from the second they made that trade. Look at the difference. Okay, Detroit went out and got a guy just like Oakland did. The difference is that what Detroit sent out, it was okay, but they didn't take Ian Kinsler or Miggy, or they didn't take one of the main pieces out of their lineup to bring David Price in. Oakland did. Yeah, they made the big move. Yes, they went and got a guy, and I like that, but they sent out such an integral piece that I'm not saying, hey, look, they're still 80 and 63. They're still playing some ball, but I was with you on that, man. That was a big piece to send out to get a guy that you don't even have control over. That's the worst part. Like, I don't know, for all the talk of how smart Oakland is, I don't know that trade, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. I don't know that one did not undo any chance that they had of taking this thing all the way.
Well, if this works out badly for the A's and they miss the playoffs, they better make another movie, Moneyball 2, and have it be like a disaster movie like Titanic.
But I'm with you, man. But it has fortuitously worked out for both the Indians, the Tigers, and the Mariners there. As we said, there's a big difference now. I mean, it's not 3, 4, 5 teams competing for 1 spot and 1 spot only. It's now 4 teams fighting for 2 spots as well as battling for the division. It's just really opened things up, more possibilities. Now what you've got to do is what the Indians have done so far, which is keep winning. As we mentioned, back when they had 32 games left or whatever, where they had to win 2 out of every 3, I've done the math. They're 1 victory short of that winning percentage if you average it out for the season. Of the 20 that they needed, they're on pace for 19 of those 20 when we did the math earlier. But I'll tell you, I monkeyed around with the schedule. I got the Indians easily looking at what's left and the way they've been playing. I can walk them to 90 wins looking at the schedule. My question is, does 89 or 90 wins get you to the playoffs? I wasn't sure if it did before. Now, with Oakland cooling down and those differences in what we just talked about, I think that can get you in.
It could, but it's very hard to tell simply because you have so many different teams. It's one thing if you're chasing down one team, but when you have 3 or 4 teams out there, any one of them could get really red hot and just go on a big run in these last few weeks. So it's really hard to predict. As well as the Indians could do, maybe one of these other or 2 of these other 2 teams could also get hot. That's the difficult thing when you're playing like this. Fortunately, the Indians have done very well last year and this year at beating the teams they're supposed to beat. They go against the White Sox, they beat them all 3 times. And I know we look optimistically at some of these series like, well, maybe the Indians will win 2 out of 3. No, they've got to win all 3 against the Twins just to get things rolling their way against the Tigers on this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. I could walk you through the whole thing. I mean, it's very easy. You go, hey, how do the Indians make the playoffs? I'll pull up the schedule here, and I can walk you through the whole thing. It started with Chicago, taking all 3 games from the White Sox. It starts with the Minnesota Twins, sweeping the Minnesota Twins here in this series. In the drain, they're even worse off than Chicago, 21 games under 500. But the one team that Gardy loves to beat is the Indians, and I'm sure to be the one that sticks it to the tribe here down the stretch and makes them miserable coming down. But here, I got the schedule right here. You sweep Minnesota. You've got to go on the road and take 2 out of 3 from Detroit. You got to go at least take 3 out of 4, if not sweep Houston on the road. Same thing with Minnesota on the road. I'm not expecting you to sweep those series, but you've got to take 3 out of 4 in Houston. You've got to take at least 2 of those 3 in Minnesota. You have to take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City, and you've got to wrap up the season taking care of business in Tampa Bay. If you can do that, let's see, I'll do the math on the victories now. 3, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. That's anywhere from 14 to 15 victories down the stretch here if you do just that little quick look that we did. So 15 takes you right where I said. 89 victories, maybe. Oh, well, you know what? We're not counting the one in hand. That's where I got to 90 because I saw 15 with games that are remaining. Plus, if you finish those 3 outs with Kansas City, that gets you to 90 wins on the season. I think at best case, that's where the Indians can end up.
Well, the nice thing is you can look at that and you think, you know what, that sounds like a tall order, but it really could happen. You talk about, taking 3 out of 4 or maybe 4 out of 4 from teams like the Astros. And you know what? It's the Astros. It could happen.
It's how you got in last year.
That is definitely how they did it last year. It's not like we got to come down the stretch against the Mariners and the Orioles and stuff. The schedule is literally as favorable as it can be, and that's how it all works out. We've already played these tough teams. We've been through it. Now we get to beat up, hopefully, on some easy teams. And the good thing is when you look at the pitching matchups for today and the next couple days, it looks like, at least on paper, and of course you don't play games on paper, that we could certainly win all 3 of these. Of course, we've got the battle of the Trevors tonight, Trevor Bauer and Trevor May. May's ERA is like 9.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
You've got Kyle Gibson, who's one of their best pitchers tomorrow, but we beat him. And then, of course, on Thursday afternoon, it doesn't get much more favorable on paper than Corey Kluber against Ricky Nolasco.
I agree with you. I was looking at those myself, too. Obviously, the second game is the one that Minnesota's got to look at there and say their starting pitching gives them the best chance. But, we can sit here and say this, that, and the other thing. That's what the Indians have to do. And like you said, I don't even look at that as saying that can be done. I mean, that needs to be done, what we just said. Bruce is even more optimistic than me. He says 12 of these 19, where I got to 14 or maybe 15. He thinks even 12. And he may be right from the sense that 3 of them are against Detroit. 3 of them are against Kansas City. Now, those, as always, count as maybe you want to say a game and a half or 2 games, depending on how you want to look at it, because you're playing and you're also gaining ground in the division as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think that's where you look at that and go, well, they could do that. I mean, I think that's what you expect them to do if you're going to be a playoff team. You don't say you're a playoff team and go through Minnesota and Houston shooting 50%. You go through and you take care of business. Like I said, of these 6 games left against Minnesota, I think you win 4 or 5 of them easily if you're a playoff team. Same thing with Houston. I know it's hard to go on the road and look. That's why I said 3 out of 4. It's just impossible to say I'm going to go on the road and plan on sweeping a team in 4 games. 3 out of 4 is nice, but that's one that when your eyes get big, you take 3 out of 4, you try to sweep that thing at that point there, But again, that's the way you have to approach the rest of this season, and you have to take it at the same time, 1 game at a time. Tonight, like you said, Bauer and May, and there's a good chance May's been beat up here, and that's what the Tribe's got to do. Especially, you're pissed. Yesterday, you got batted around in middle of the afternoon. Nobody really felt like being there. It was supposed to be a day off for everybody, and hey, it is what it is. So you go take that aggression out on the Twins and May tonight.
That's right. And if this is going to work, the Indians are going to have to do it in a different way than they've done for the last month or so. They've got to get a lot more offense. I mean, the first half of the year, they had about 4 runs a game, 4.5 runs a game. This past month, they've been averaging about 3 runs a game. I mean, sometimes it works out, like against the White Sox, where we basically beat them 7-2 over a 3-game span. But, you're going to have to score more than 7 runs in 3 games if you want to keep this momentum going, because your pitchers can't always pitch a shutout or, giving up just 1 run. So somewhere, one of these guys who we've seen get hot, it might have to be Michael Brantley again. It might have to be Carlos Santana.